once again, and I'll keep saying it until it becomes not true, the Rays should have decided, to hell with home field, let's just play 162 on the road. What the hell? Man, they cannot win at Steinbrenner Field on any consistent basis. They're now 9-14 at home. They lost to the Phillies 8-4 in a game that really wasn't that close. They're now 9-14 at home, and they've lost 9 of their last 10 games. And when I say home, I mean Steinbrenner Field, which is clearly not home.
They need to just think of it as a road game. Like, it's not their home stadium. Just pretend it's a road game, not
Beautiful.
a home game.
Great idea. It's a great idea. I would do this. I would tear down all those Rays signs that they covered up from the Yankees. Just tear them down, man.
Yeah.
You know, make it Steinbrenner Field, home of the Yankees, spring home of the Yankees. Who cares? Make yourself feel as unhome as you can, because this team is not home at Steinbrenner. I can't explain it. I will say this: when you're playing a team like the Phillies, like I sat there and watched some of that game, and Kyle Schwarber went yard, and he's got like 12 homers this year. And you look at that lineup, and some of those guys are getting a little long in the tooth, even Hapa. But they're like, I'm thinking, and I know they're in the National League. God forbid you made it to a World Series, but even if you were playing them in the postseason, like teams like that with those payrolls and those bashers, the Rays would never. With this current team that they have, in what planet would you think that they could pitch so well and scrape enough runs across that you could win a series against those guys? It's so inequitable. Like we were talking before we went on, like baseball has just widened the gulf, between teams that have all the payroll and those that don't.
No question about it. I mean, it's as the Dodgers are deferring most of the money to their son, and so it keeps the luxury tax cheap. Well, it keeps the luxury tax down.
Yeah,
it does. Really what they're doing. It's really kind of skirting the system.
They are.
You want to defer the money, fine, but it's to prevent the luxury tax.
That's right.
So they don't have to share that and get taxed for the others.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see the Mets and the Dodgers and what they spend and how other teams can't,
right?
And it's only getting wider. I mean, that golf, that gap. When you have big market teams talking about, well, maybe we need a cap.
Like, yeah, right.
That's unheard of in baseball for either side to want a cap. But now you've got even bigger market teams going, well, maybe it's not such a bad idea. Because they're seeing what the Dodgers are doing and what the Mets and Cohen is doing there, and
right.
what the Cubs are capable of, and
Red Sox if they want to. I mean, it just depends. Yeah, it's not fun anymore. Like, I don't know. Look, this isn't a great Rays team, and I think they can pitch with anybody. But that's only half the game, and then Yandy Diaz went out of the game. I guess they're not as concerned as it looked. He was taken out during an at bat.
His hip tightened up, but Kevin Cash says he thinks he'll play today. So,
well, that's great news, I suppose, because Yandy's been hitting the ball a lot better lately. But they thought that using him as a DH would minimize, the injuries for him, and then he was DHing and he got hurt. I don't know, man. Like some days I look at them and I go, they're kind of scrappy. They got some young guys up there, trying to make it. This is their dream, and they're kind of, overachieving right now. And certainly the pitching looks good at times, and maybe you get, Lau gets hot, or Diaz carries him for a while, or some of the big guys, but they just don't have enough of them. I think it's tough to compete. It always has been with the Rays and their payroll. But maybe more so now, I mean, they're kind of where they were last year at this time, a couple games under 500, but there's a real like bad feeling, man, about Steinbrenner. And I truly thought they would be energized by it, and I think it's just taken on its own sort of, we're orphaned. We don't really have a home when we come home. And, the conditions, the short porches, other teams are taking advantage of it. Mm-hmm. The Rays are not.
Now, they say that when the summer winds hit around June, that The stadium should change the way
in.
it plays.
Yeah, it should.
And then, we'll kind of see how that goes. And people that have played there in the minors and coached there said, look, it will be different once we hit June and July. Now, there's not as many home games then. But those games, the field should play different. We'll see if that benefits the Rays or helps the Rays or not. I mean, that's the thing, is it may play different, but both teams play the same circumstances, the same wind blowing in or out or which direction, et cetera. So,
yeah, I mean, the ballpark, both teams got to play in it. I mean, the ballpark shouldn't play one way for one team and the other way for the other team.
Although you were in the Metrodome back in the day when they used to turn the air conditioning on.
That's right. And they did that stuff with the speakers too, man, when they play football there. That was my least favorite venue of any NFL / the horn. Yeah. I mean, but plus, like, they would play music right up until the snap, and I swear that they amplified crowd noise. You could not hear yourself thinking there. You just couldn't. It was a disastrous place to play the Dome. I love their stadium now, but they're probably pulling the same stuff. But yeah, I mean, just not an entertaining product right now, and difficult for the Rays. And we'll see if they bounce back. I mean, this is the first of a 3-game series. You got Houston coming in after that.
Remember that? Well, no, Milwaukee this weekend. Houston's
Milwaukee.
Next homestand.
That's right.
Yep. But remember, hey, the Rays lost the first game in New York and then took the next two. So.
They did. And that was roughly the exact dimensions that they're playing in now. Only problem is the Yankees aren't here. And the Yankees took care of them when they were here. Rasmussen has been their best. He hasn't given up many home runs really in the last 300 innings or so, but he did give up a couple early, and he's still kind of limited to 5 innings. They're taking it easy on him, but yeah, just not a good game all the way around. And good number of Philly fans were there. Another sellout. I think they've sold out all but one game for whatever that's worth.
22 of the 23. Yep.
Yeah. I will say this, and I wasn't there, so I don't know what it felt like at 7 o'clock, but it's getting hotter, folks. It's getting hotter.
It is, but we're not there yet. We're not at the steamy part yet.
No. Because May is dry.
Hopefully a couple more weeks,
because May is still dry. Like the dew point and the humidity and everything isn't quite as sticky. It's going to get sticky and hot. When it gets sticky and hot, that'll be interesting. Then I want to see how that ballpark plays. I don't know if the balls will be flying out. There was very little wind, though, today. Usually it's swirling in different directions, but today there was very little. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the NHL, and you told me, I asked you, because I had not looked, to see if anyone had been suspended lately from the Florida Panthers. And the answer was no. I'm stunned by that. I mean, we all saw them take the elbow across the goalie, who then had to be carried out on a stretcher.
Rick, it was just a little drive. It was just a little love tap.
Oh, come on. It can't be serious.
Because Sam Bennett's never done that before. Never took an elbow to even a goalie before, because you can find videos of those too.
Of course.
Yeah. No, Sam Bennett, no, he didn't mean that. No, of course not.
And it feels worse when you do it to a goaltender whose, sole concentration has to be not on you that's coming across his skull, but wherever the puck is, which is why generally they protect those guys more than they do other players. And to not call it in real time, but then to go back and they have this committee, that looks at things, and
Department of Player
Safety. Well, the Department of Player Safety needs to make it a little safety in the department, because that goaltender was not safe, and he got knocked out and he got concussed, and they didn't blow the whistle then, and now they're not suspending the guy now. It's clear to me that the NHL is looking for a back-to-back champion in the Florida Panthers. It really is. The other thing is, how much of this, if any, reflects on your head coach? Like, would Cooper stand if he had a team? First of all, you wouldn't probably have a team that would play that way. But if your team was playing that way and knocking people out, right, and concussing them with cheap shots, doesn't at some point that fall on your coach?
Of course, that's an organizational thing. I mean, they have lots of players that do this, and they keep accumulating more of them.
Yeah, it's intentional.
And look, there's only one way to stop it. And the Lightning failed in it. Is every time they take a penalty, which some of them have
You
been called
score.
penalties, but
Yeah.
your power play better convert.
That's true.
You want to get them to stop doing those things?
Yeah, make them
Score
pay.
on the power play.
Yeah,
That's the
Yeah.
quickest way in a playoff series to get a team to stop the shenanigans.
that's true.
Because if every time you go on the power play, you score or almost score, like they'll stop.
They got to make a decision. Yeah,
But otherwise, the NHL's not going to stop them. We've seen that.
it's crazy to me.
The NHL is okay with concussing players purposely, unsuspecting. That was from behind.
It's the same team though. Like it's the same team every night. You know. I don't know.
So I mean, Toronto wants to stop it. They better start converting on the power play.
Well, they were up 4-1, and then after that, it was a close game. They wound up winning the game. So there is
You had
that.
your backup goalie in, and you probably will for this game. And
Yeah, and that's going to cost you. He gave up 3 quick ones the other night, but
although he had to come in unprepared, unwarmed up.
oh yeah,
all that stuff. So.
Yeah, it's not easy. But I'm just saying they were well in control of that game until you took out one of their best players, which happened to be the goaltender. So I don't think that was an accident, right? Like you're clearly targeting some of the top players now, to change the outcome. And if they're going to let them do it, then I think you can pencil in the Florida Panthers for another run to the NHL Stanley Cup
I believe
final.
it was Sam Bennett a few years ago. Might have been Reinhart, but I thought it was Sam Bennett a few years ago. In a preseason game ran at Vazzy.
Oh, God.
In Orlando.
Preseason?
Oh, it was preseason.
Jeez.
And it took a run at Vazzy. It started a fight and whatever else. It was preseason. I believe it was Bennett. It could have been Reinhart. It was one of those two.
Yeah.
That was in Orlando. This was probably 4 years ago.
Right.
Just by recollection.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no strangers for the Panthers.
No, that's who they are. That's how they play. They don't make excuses for it. They get away with it, and they're going to keep doing it because there's no downside. There's literally no downside. They're winning as a result. Now, again, they did win this game, but they may have won the next one if they don't have their number one goaltender in there. It's definitely going to have an impact on the series. Losing Brendan Hagel had a big impact on the series, I promise you. So, yeah, it's just weird to me. All right, we got some mailbag questions and a couple good ones here that I wanted to get to. But first, have you been down to International Plaza Mall? I know you guys know where it is, kind of sandwiched in there between the airport and, say, Raymond James. And if you go there, in the center of it is Breitling Boutique. It is the Breitling company that's been making the best Swiss watches for over 140-something years. They've been in International Plaza for the last 5+ years. Now, you go in the mall, they have that center area there. Upstairs, that's where you're going to find Breitling Boutique and the best customer service anywhere. They're used to dealing with a lot of celebrities and professional athletes. You'll probably see a Buccaneer or two in some instances in that very shop. But they're going to treat you like a celebrity as well. And they have a great collection of men's and women's watches, the men's watches, the Navatimers, the Chronomats, women's watches, sports watches in particular. These things are beautiful. They're durable, and they come with all different colored wristbands for your wife, for your girlfriend. She's going to love it. And also, with the Chronomats, they had this thing that they've been doing celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary. All 32 teams watches, right, in the colors of the team, the team color in the Chronomat watch with the logos. These things are beautiful. You go on TampaBay.com, you're likely to see the Bucs version of that Chronomat watch, but it's while supplies last. So, if you can find them, you can buy them, but make sure you go in there and ask to see those anniversary watches. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Please let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay.
Okay, Rick, we got some questions here. Don had asked, why can't the Buccaneers see USF as a homegrown talent development in their own backyard? What would it cost them to invite Sean Atkins, who has set every record in receiving at USF, to come to camp and work out? It's a small gesture, but it would light up the USF community. We had a rough draft with only 1 or 2 guys getting draft invites, but Sean is another cat, and he deserves at least a shot. Is there any way you could talk to the guys about extending an offer? I mean, really, it would be great PR no matter how it turns out.
Done. Tell Sean to meet him over there on this Friday. No, I don't have that kind of power. I mean, seriously. And I think Sean Atkins, watching him play, he plays with a lot of heart. But the fact is, he's not the biggest guy. I assume he's probably not the fastest guy. And, they're not the only team that decided not to invite him to camp. So I don't think he's in a camp, but he's not in this one that I'm aware of. And I know the Bucs, usually have that local sort of workout for guys, in the Florida schools. But they've signed a lot of undrafted free agents and even have some tryout guys. And that's probably what Atkins would be at best at this point, would be somebody that could, just try out. It's rare, more rare than a free agent or an undrafted free agent to make a team that way. I don't really know. I'm guessing, they run the 40 times and they keep those, bench presses and splits and hand size and height and weight. That's all important stuff to these guys. And so, even though he was stood out at USF, it doesn't necessarily always translate to the NFL. Would I do it for PR purposes? I don't think anybody's coming out there to watch Sean Atkins. No one came out to watch him at USF when he was playing. But the kid certainly has a lot of guts, and he was a big standout for the years that he was there. I can't really answer your question. I mean, look, they've had more productive receivers from bigger schools that had no chance. Like, remember when Kurt Warner's son from Kansas State was out there about a year or two ago, and that guy made a lot of plays. He didn't have a chance to make the team or the practice squad. So they're the best in the world for a reason, man. And you fall in love with these guys on Saturdays, and rightfully so. I mean, I think Atkins, poured everything he had into it, but don't really have an answer for you. You can see what they did at the receiver position. Their first overall pick, or first round pick, not the first overall pick, but their first round pick, 19th overall, was Emeka Egbuka, and he is a wide receiver, right? So, you're just adding to what is already a pretty deep position group. And some good players are going to be cut. But yeah, I don't think, I think anybody that is invited, you want to be able to believe. Now, some of it is you can't have a rookie mini camp, right, with just the 5 guys that you drafted or the 6 guys that they drafted. That's just not enough. So you're going to sign undrafted free agents. You're going to have some tryout guys because you need a camp. You're going to have a couple of quarterbacks, right? And you're going to have offense and defense. So you can simulate practice and put your draft picks through what a week of work would be like, and on and on and on. So, but every now and then somebody will catch the eye of the coach, and they'll be invited back to training camp, and it's happened before, but that's all you can hope for is a chance. Get out there and catch somebody's eye, and maybe make it to the 90-man roster for preseason, and then get in a game and get some film. And if you don't make this team, you make another one. But they're the best in the world. There's like 1,700 of these jobs, and everybody wants them. And not everybody's going to get that chance, unfortunately.
All right, Ellis wrote, says, which rookie, drafted or undrafted, has the best opportunity to make an impact right away in the upcoming season? Also, shout out to you guys for the honest reaction to the Bucs draft. It was refreshing.
Well, thanks for that. I mean, shout it from the rooftops. Listen, if your first round pick isn't a factor for your season, you probably got the wrong guy, right? And you can make arguments that Egbuka, he plays the same position as Chris Godwin, and if Chris Godwin makes it back for the opener, are you gonna sit Jalen McMillan? Because you have Mike and you have Chris, and you're probably only going to play 3 receiver sets, sometimes 2, rarely 4. So isn't that kind of a waste? I just believe this, that as great as McMillan was the last, 7 games, I think, or 5 games, he had 7 touchdowns. And he has an advantage because Baker knows him, trusts him. He knows the offense, whatever carryover there will be with Josh Grizzard. But I think your first pick in the draft is your first pick in the draft. Like, he's for now, he's for tomorrow. and he's going to get every opportunity to help you, even though it's kind of a crowded receiver room right now. My personal belief is this was not an accident. Like, they recognize that, you know what, Chris still has a couple years on his deal. Maybe he makes it back for the opener, but maybe he doesn't. And furthermore, maybe we shouldn't rush him. Like, maybe if we have an option, and a good one, that like Ibuka, like maybe we just let him come back at his own speed, and make sure that he's okay. I think they have a ton of confidence in that first pick. I really do. Now, does that mean there's not other guys in that draft that won't be really, really good? No, I think I believe that maybe all of them really could make the team, because that's been sort of where they've been as a franchise for the last few years. I mean, not many guys are getting cut. If they do, you're going to end up like on a practice squad. So, but I think you always start with the first pick, and then, look, after that, there's positions of need that they took. There's guys who are going to get opportunities right away. And so you start looking then at the position battles, and you say, okay, who could win a job? Who could win a job, and where are the weak spots and that sort of thing. But start with the first guy. The first guy is the cleanest guy that they took. They took him for a reason, and I think that he's going to force his way onto the field. I really do. Benjamin Morrison, if he's healthy, and I don't know that he will be, because they took him, he had the hip surgery. If Benjamin Morrison is healthy, he's going to get every chance to beat, Jamel Dean, to make that a close contest. Parrish is going to compete. Jacob Parrish is going to compete at nickel with Christian Isian. Walker, I think you're going to see a lot of that kid from Central Arkansas, and he will be in a rotation on the defensive line. But I don't think he's going to be a starter. I like Roberts as kind of the like Golston, if you will, like Will Golston. He's got that role where he's versatile and he can play inside and sometimes come off the edge if he has to. So they got guys that are going to play, but Ibuka is your headliner, and he's your headliner for a reason. And when you go to the second round and you got a guy that's coming off, hip surgery, I don't know how much you're going to get out of him early. So I would say watch for Ibuka. They like this guy on and off the field. He can run routes. He studies the game. He's going to play inside, and he can play all three positions. But if Chris Godwin is the slightest not ready, I think Ibuka starts the season in the slot.
Michael had tweeted, what undrafted rookies have the best path to earning a job on the Bucs 53-man roster?
As far as the undrafted guys, and I've been talking to some people over at One Buck, I think, again, where's the opportunity, right? They did not take an inside linebacker, all right? John Bullock from Nebraska, I think Bullock, you team it with another Nebraska guy in Levante David, he's going to learn an awful lot, right? But he was a guy that could run and hit. I don't know what his coverage skills are just yet, but I do know the Bucs liked his tape a lot. And, given the fact that, you need some depth inside since they didn't draft a guy, I'm going to watch him pretty closely. There's Shiloh we talked about. They did not really buttress their safety position, although they do have, having lost some of their safeties, whether it was Mike Edwards, Jordan Whitehead, they're not going to be back. There's positions there. I do think that Isian can cross train, and he can play safety as well. But I do think that Shiloh would have to show them something on special teams pretty early to make it. He's going to get a lot of attention. We'll talk to him the first day because of his name and all of that. And look, he did play at a high level, at Colorado. And when he played, I thought he played well. We've also talked about the defensive tackle from Florida, Desmond Watson. Now, at 400 plus pounds, I don't know that he's ready to play right now, but he's an intriguing prospect because he can really move, even despite his size, his gargantuan size. And the prospect of putting somebody like that next to Vita Vea in certain situations is enticing, which is why I think he's here. But I don't think they're going to let him play at 420. They got to make sure that guy is safe first and foremost. And I guess he's already lost close to 30 pounds since his pro day, so he's headed the right direction. But you just rarely find people as talented as that with that kind of size. I mean, you never see a 400 pounder in the NFL. They literally have the largest and the smallest players, in the same roster. So, but there's a number of guys, like everybody that is signed, especially ones they give money to, they have a chance. They have a chance to at least make the practice squad. Some of them will open eyes and find themselves on the 53, but it's not easy. It's not easy to make a team. And this team, being the second youngest team in the league last year, you have to remember, they didn't lose a lot of players due to age. The Will Golstons may have moved on for now, but they don't have a lot of older players. Your older guys are still Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and those guys are still very much part of your team. So there's just not a lot of jobs, which makes it a real competitive camp. And you also have some veterans backing up some starters too, which I think is important. And I don't know. I don't think this is a team that's going to be easy to make, right? Easy to make as an undrafted free agent, but there'll be one or two possibly that you got to see out. And then injuries play a big factor too. You get in the preseason, guys get hurt, guys go on IR, and that's going to be your opportunity. But you try to make not just the 53, but also you consider the practice squad. It's like 14, 16 guys there, so you're into the 60s. And if you can do that, most of those practice squad players find themselves sometime during the year on the regular active roster, sometime, and that's just the math. It's a math game, and the more you can do on special teams, the more you can do the cross training positions, whether it's nickel corner or safety. That's how you make a roster.
All right, Allie from the UK wrote, which team in the NFC South is the biggest threat to the Bucs from winning a fifth consecutive division crown?
I think it's the Falcons still. Look, the Falcons beat this team twice with Kirk Cousins. When Kirk Cousins was not Kirk Cousins, right? He played better at that point in the season, and then I think something happened, and he didn't have enough oomph on the ball, and certainly he was not throwing the football the way he had earlier in the season. But the Falcons kind of went all in, man. They mortgaged a big part of their future to get some defensive linemen. They've been, I think they had the second fewest sacks in the league last year with like 31. They have trouble, putting pressure on the quarterback. And without that, their defense is kind of inept. But, I mean, look, Michael Penix Jr., man, he did a nice job. And he's going to come in there and electrify that fan base. And they've got weapons, Drake London. They got the running game. They got weapons everywhere. They should score more points. I don't think Carolina is there yet. I love what Bryce Young did at the end of the year. In fact, he beat the Falcons. Had the Bucs lost their final game, they would have still made it because of Carolina going into Atlanta and winning. But I still think they're a year away, although they're getting closer. They added some valuable pieces. They're going to get close. And New Orleans is a toss up because it looks like Derek Carr is going to miss the season, and so what will their quarterback situation eventually look like? I think they got old on defense, and they've been getting old, pretty fast here the last few years. So I would rank them just kind of how they finished, right? I think I would rank them. Kind of Carolina might be last, but in this case, I'd say the Bucs are still the team to beat. They've won 4 straight NFC South titles. I think Atlanta is right there and swept the Bucs a year ago. And then I think it's probably Carolina and then New Orleans, just with the new head coach and waiting to see what the quarterback situation is going to shake out. So, but has Atlanta drawn closer with the mortgaging some of the future and using another number one draft pick on another edge rusher? Yeah, I think they have. I think that They fired their defensive coordinator, good friend of Raheem Morse's and Jimmy Lake, and I do think they'll take a step, and that's a difficult team to beat. And the Bucs didn't do it last year, so they're gonna have to we're gonna have to come with a little better finishing than they were a year ago, because the defense. That's when you really first notice that there's a big problem in the middle of your field, right? There's a big problem with your defense because Cousins was just exploiting the middle of the field all day in that game, and they couldn't close it out. But Atlanta, to me, is not that far behind if their quarterback, Michael Penix Jr., can play the way he did his last and only couple starts. Like, having an off season, they have confidence in the kid. He's going to be a good quarterback. I'm just telling you, that's the guy that Bruce Arians loved coming out of the draft. Saw him make every throw, throws as accurate a deep ball as there is in the game, and they will rally around that quarterback. And it's going to be real interesting to see what he does for a 17-game season.
Les tweeted, Rick, with quarterback contracts getting insane, Brock Purdy $50 million, seriously? Would the Bucs be smart to extend Baker a few more years? He's only got 2 years left, so maybe another 3-year deal to give them some stability at quarterback.
It's a great question. I think it's going to happen. I don't know if it'll happen right away. He's 30 now, and so I think he has a solid 3-4 years maybe, depending on just how healthy he can remain. And that would be the one thing that would make me wait until after this season, is like, okay, he's we've seen him throw his body around, and we've seen him almost he has come out of games. We've seen him finish the season, hasn't missed a start, but his style of play is, prone to him taking too many hits. And so I've got him for 2 more years, and I've got him this year at $30 million. That gives me a very favorable salary cap situation. I'm still paying Chris Godwin. I'm still paying Mike Evans. I think I might wait until the end of this season to see where we're at, because at the end of the day, if they keep winning the division and bowing out in the first or second round, I assume you're not blaming Baker, but you can't just. I don't think you want to crown the guy just yet either. I mean, look, this is his home. I think he feels at home here. Bowles loves him. I think Jason Light loves him. He's a dude. He'll have a beer. He gets along with everybody. He spends a lot of time on the game plan. He knows what to do with the football. He's pretty damn accurate. So he's everything you want in a quarterback, especially the off-field stuff and how players will play hard for him. But you're right. I mean, quarterback salaries are going north of $60 million. Close to $70 million, and the sooner they do it, the better rate they're going to get. But they got a really good rate right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got them for $30 million, which means you can reward other players. Remember, they got other guys coming up. Luke Gedeke is coming up for a new contract, and they're going to have to sign some guys.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to kind of balance it with, hey, we got 2 more years of Baker Mayfield at a really good rate, and that could help us field a team around him that can win a Super Bowl.
Let's not forget, too, Baker has to agree to do that, and he sees
does.
quarterback salaries going up, and he may say, I don't want to do this now.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to bet on myself and wait and get more money.
And he did it when he came here for $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
$4 million they had him the first year. And, he didn't get 50 the next contract, but 33 and a third, $100 million for 3 years. It's not chump change, but it's not. At one point, he was one of the lowest paid quarterbacks, or the lowest paid quarterback in his own division, right? I mean, you had first round pick in Bryce Young. You had Derek Carr, who had signed a big.
I think
extension.
Andy Dalton was getting more as a backup in Carolina.
He was. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely. I think he was getting $6 million, and Baker was getting $4 million. So it hasn't been about the money, but now it should be about the money. I mean, you only got so many years to play. I'm glad that he's. When you read the stories about him getting ripped off with, a bunch of things with his dad and his brother and stuff, and lost $12 million there, or it's unaccounted for. Like, that's tragic stuff. And for him to have this security now, build a home in Davis Islands, and all that's great, but he's still one of the best bargains because I was looking at these lists and I saw a bunch of these lists about when ranking the quarterbacks, and almost in all of them, Baker's in the top 10 now. It used to be 15, 16. And now he's kind of, propelled himself up in that top 10. So if he does that and the salaries 1 through 9 are where I think they're going to be, he's definitely in for a pay raise. It's just a question of when. And I also think that, by not forcing the issue, he can keep a pretty good team around him. I mean, look, and I'm not telling him he should play for less than the market value, but Tom Brady left a lot of meat on the bone, so that his team could go out and sign free agents, because he wanted to win. And if he won, he knew all that other stuff would come to him anyway. Now, not everybody's Tom Brady or that confident. I would get every penny I could right now. But I haven't heard that broached. I'm sure it's on their radar. I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. But I would think that would be a discussion at the end of this year rather than before.
Boog asks, any truth to Jalen Ramsey being traded to the Buccaneers?
I mean, I don't think so. I don't know what compensation you'd be willing to give up for him. I don't know his health, number one. He is pretty good friends with Baker, when they were playing for the Rams together. So you never say never, but look, they spent a 2nd-round draft pick on a corner. They spent a 3rd-round draft pick on a corner. They still have Zion McCallum, and they still have Jamel Dean. So they got guys. Someone like if you're gonna sign Ramsey, I would think you'd have to just think he's better right now than what you have on your roster, and that you're going to play him at least in nickel. But I don't sense that there's any momentum for that. I don't think he's the missing piece, and I think when you generate competition among the young guys, you want to see them battle it out because the cream's going to rise, and they think Morrison, when healthy, would have been a 1st-round pick. I don't disagree. If you watch his tape and what he did at Notre Dame, he's a great kid. Just great ball instincts, a lot of interceptions. He just got hurt, and if he can be back, then I think you're going to have some depth at corner, and I think it'll light a fire under Dean, who just needs to stay healthy. So, yeah, it just doesn't feel right to me that they would make a play for Jalen right now.
Jim had tweeted, all those quarterbacks Cleveland has on its roster, wouldn't that be John Gruden's dream job?
I'll tell you what, man, I could call him off like Santa's reindeer, you know what I mean? On Flacco. What else we got there?
Sanders.
On Flacco, on Shador.
Pickett, Gabriel.
On Gabriel, Donner and Cupid and Bonner and Blitzen. Like, blitzing. I'll tell you what, they're going to blitz us, man. Yeah, I think John, with any quarterback, like he could do the whole Gruden quarterback school with just the Cleveland Browns. That's what I want to see. I want to see him put them all up on the chalkboard and figure out who can play. Did I see where John is a part owner of an arena team now?
I saw a headline that he was back in football as an owner. I assumed it was arena or UFL or something.
I think it's arena. I believe it's arena. And still opening boxes. We had a 2-box day the other day.
By the way, who knew that the Arena Football League was still around?
I know, right? Well, if there was one, you would think there'd be one here in Tampa where they used to dominate, right? The Tampa Bay Storm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's gone by the by. But yeah, so that'd be awesome, man. I'll tell you what, man. I wonder if Gruden. I do continually wonder. Like, John's like 61. And he's a youthful 61 at that. He's gotten back on the national stage with Barstool Sports and all the stuff he does on Gruden Loves Football and that sort of thing. I think it's probably a matter of time that somebody says, yeah, let's see if the old coach can dial up some ball plays.
No, I don't know. I think he's done.
You think he's never going to coach again?
As a head coach. If he wants to go be a coordinator, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say have the press conference. It would be difficult. The other thing was the record, while he did win a Super Bowl, is around 500.
500 coach, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe, again, the time has passed. But guys are coaching till they're 70. Wouldn't bother me, man. It's keep my invitation relevant. But, yeah, John's...
He's a big St. Louis guy now, though, apparently, because he went to the Blues game and the Cardinals
Blues,
game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool. They had, he's always about, he did this thing. He was talking to Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, and he had this speech, and he was all fired up and getting them all fired up and stuff. He goes, everybody talks about their dreams, man. I got dreams, I got a dream to play in the NFL. I got a dream to lead the college in receiving. I'm into nightmares, man. I want to end somebody's dream. You know what I mean? And so the St. Louis Blues put something about like where you're like something about nightmares,
Mhm.
So they picked up Gruden's thing. He was like, yeah, man, I'm into nightmares. So that's what he's doing at the FFCA.
Yeah, so Levante David visited there.
He did. That was cool. Yeah, he got Levante at the old FFCA and, Fountain of Youth there going. Those two. Levante's got some film, got some really good film.
Mm-hmm.
The Ageless one. I'm interested to see how he plays this year. Man, he had a good year last year. He's definitely lost some stuff in the coverage game, but he makes up for it in his instincts, and all the things he can do. He had five and a half sacks, something like that. They got Walker behind him now. He's got some experience if they need to play him, and then Servassier Dennis is coming off shoulder surgery, but he seems to be like he's going to be their answer next to Levante. But one injury or two, I think that's where they're vulnerable. I think you need someone to step up either in mini camp, training camp, something, or maybe somebody comes free. They still have Deion Jones too, who they picked up late last year. Played for the Falcons. He's a pretty good cover guy. He's getting up there in age, like a lot of their linebackers. So it's time to get that second generation. But they just didn't. The draft didn't fall that way. Didn't fall that way, and they didn't force it, which is probably a smart thing. And they just got to kind of hope that they have a little bit of luck at the position. And KJ Britt is gone, and I think rightfully so, even though Miami picked him up. But that's the area that I would be a little concerned about, and something they didn't address in the draft.
All right, we got a couple of Rays questions we'll pick up tomorrow with. So if you got more mailbag questions, send them our way.
Sure.
At NFL Stroud on X or at SportsDayTV, or you can email Rick at rstroud@tampabay.com.
Yeah, the Bucs going to have their rookie mini camp this weekend. I think the players arrive on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. They got their coaching academy going on right now. A lot of things going on over there at One Buck Place. So we'll bring it all to you in the Tampa Bay Times and TampaBay.com. The Rays continue their series against the Philadelphia Phillies and see if they can turn around their bad fortunes at home. And also, make sure you get on down to Breitling Boutique. Help our sponsors out. They do a great job. The Breitling Company is one of the best Swiss watchmakers in the world, and you're going to get a timepiece that you're proud of. Absolutely love the customer service. Love the products. For men, for women, for your wife or girlfriend, go to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall, and make sure you let them know you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.